I'm still shaking as I type this. I need to get this off my chest because I can't believe this is my reality right now. My husband Robert, 32M, and my sister Diana, 29F, were not just having an affair, they were plotting to kill me for my life insurance money. I know this sounds like something out of a crime show, but this is my actual life right now. Some background first. I'm Ashley, 30F, and I grew up in a wealthy suburb of Boston with my younger sister Diana. Our childhood wasn't exactly perfect. Our dad was a successful business owner who was barely home, and our mom struggled with depression. Diana and I basically raised each other. We shared everything: clothes, secrets, friends. I always felt protective of her since she was younger. She had a wild streak that got her into trouble sometimes, but I was always there to bail her out. Diana struggled a lot in her teens. She got into drugs for a while, dropped out of college twice, and had a string of toxic relationships. I supported her through everything, even when our parents were ready to give up on her. When she got pregnant at 25 with her son Eric, I helped her get clean and back on her feet. She seemed to really turn her life around after that. I met Robert 5 years ago through what I thought was a chance encounter at a charity gala. He worked as a financial advisor at a prestigious firm, and everything about him screamed success. He was tall, well-dressed, articulate, and seemed genuinely interested in my work as an environmental lawyer. I later found out he'd been reading up on environmental law just to impress me that night. Our relationship moved pretty fast. Robert was incredibly attentive and romantic. He remembered every little detail about things I liked, sent flowers to my office randomly, and always knew exactly what to say when I was stressed. Looking back, I can see how calculated it all was, but at the time, it felt like a fairy tale. When our parents died in a car accident 3 years ago, Robert was my rock. The accident was horrible. They were driving home from their anniversary dinner when a drunk driver hit them. Diana took it really hard and started spiraling again, but Robert helped us both through it. He handled all the funeral arrangements, dealt with the lawyers regarding our inheritance, and suggested I invest mine wisely while Diana blew through most of hers within a year. The inheritance was substantial, about $2.5 million each. I followed Robert's advice and invested most of mine in various ventures. He also convinced me to take out a large life insurance policy, saying it was the responsible thing to do since we were planning to start a family. I trusted him completely. Diana started spending more time at our house after she moved closer to us last year. She would often be there when I got home from work, cooking dinner with Robert or helping him with house projects. I thought it was sweet how well they got along. Diana even watched our house and took care of our dogs when we went on vacations. The first sign that something was wrong came about 4 months ago. I got really sick after eating some soup Diana had made specially for me. Robert and Diana had eaten different food that night, claiming they weren't in the mood for soup. I was violently ill for days, but the doctors couldn't figure out what caused it. Now I know they were trying to poison me. Then there was the incident with my car's brake lines. They started leaking mysteriously, and Robert insisted I take it to this specific mechanic he knew. The mechanic was probably in on it, because the brakes failed again a week later while I was driving on the highway. I managed to pull over safely, but I could have died. The truth came out 3 months ago. I had taken a day off work because of a migraine but didn't tell Robert. I was lying in our bedroom when I heard Robert and Diana talking in the kitchen through our old house's air vent system. The vent in our room connects directly to the kitchen, and they had no idea I could hear everything. They were planning to kill me during our upcoming camping trip to the Adirondacks. Robert had researched the perfect spot where accidents were common, a cliff overlooking a gorge. They planned to push me while I was taking photos. They talked about how they'd split my life insurance money and move to Belize together, where they'd already bought property using fake names. I lay there for over an hour, listening to my husband and sister discuss every detail of my murder. They talked about their previous failed attempts, the soup, the brake lines, and other things I hadn't even realized were attempts on my life. They had been sleeping together for over 2 years, starting just months after my wedding. After they left, I checked Robert's laptop, which he'd left unlocked in his rush to meet Diana. I found hundreds of emails between them going back years, explicit photos, and detailed research on untraceable poisons and staged accidents. I copied everything to a USB drive and went straight to the police. The police took my case seriously, thank God. They asked me to act normal while they gathered more evidence. For 2 weeks, I had to pretend everything was fine while wearing a wire. Every time Robert kissed me goodbye or Diana hugged me, I wondered if that would be the day they decided to kill me. The police finally arrested them 3 weeks ago. The investigation unveiled even more horrors. Diana had helped Robert kill his previous girlfriend 6 years ago, staging it as a suicide. They never had enough evidence until now. Currently, they're both in jail awaiting trial. The evidence against them is overwhelming. I'm staying with my aunt in another state now. I can't sleep without nightmares about what could have happened. The two people I trusted most in the world were plotting my death over dinner in my own kitchen. I just keep thinking about all the times they must have laughed about their plans while pretending to care about me. I'll update as the legal case progresses. Right now, I'm just trying to process how my life turned into this nightmare. At least I'm alive to tell this story. Update 1 first, I want to thank everyone for their supportive comments on my original post. The past 2 months have been a nightmare, but having this community support has helped more than you know. The police investigation has uncovered things that make my original post seem almost tame in comparison. I wasn't sure about posting this update, but I need to get it out somewhere. What they've discovered about Robert and Diana is beyond anything I could have imagined. Digital forensics found evidence that Robert and Diana had known each other for 8 years before I even met him. Everything, from our chance meeting at the charity gala to Robert's career choice, was orchestrated. Diana had shown him my social media posts about environmental law and charity work months before we met. He specifically got a job at that financial firm because he knew they handled the charity gala I attended every year. The investigators found photos of them together from years ago, stored in encrypted files on Robert's cloud storage. They had been lovers long before I came into the picture. Diana had even dyed her hair and changed her appearance when they put their plan in motion, so no one would recognize her from their past together. Remember how I mentioned our parents' car accident? The police are now investigating that too. They found suspicious transfers from an offshore account to someone connected to the drunk driver who hit our parents. They're looking into whether Robert and Diana arranged the accident to get access to our inheritance. I've been physically sick since learning about this possibility. The investigation into Robert's previous girlfriend's death has been reopened. Her name was Michelle, 27F, and her suicide 3 years before he met me was suspiciously similar to what they had planned for me. She had also recently taken out a large life insurance policy naming Robert as the beneficiary. Michelle's family had always suspected foul play but could never prove anything. A private investigator I hired discovered Robert's real identity. His name is Ronald Matthews, and he had a history of insurance fraud in 3 other states. He changed his name 7 years ago and created a completely new identity. The level of planning that went into his deception is terrifying. Diana's past is turning out to be even darker than I knew. Remember how I mentioned she had a wild period in her teens? The police found evidence linking her to her college roommate Lucy's, 20F, overdose death 10 years ago. Lucy had a trust fund that Diana inherited as her nominated beneficiary. They're reopening that case too. What makes this even more twisted is that Diana had been recording everything. The police found dozens of video diaries on her laptop where she talked about their plans, laughed about how trusting I was, and complained about how long it was taking to kill me. She recorded herself mixing poison into that soup that made me sick, talking about how excited she was to finally get rid of me. I've had to go through old photos and videos for the investigation. It's surreal seeing holiday photos and family videos now, knowing what was really going on. There's a video from my wedding where Diana is giving her maid of honor speech, crying about how happy she is for me, while Robert sits there smiling. Just hours before that, according to their emails, they had sex in the church bathroom and laughed about how stupid I was. The district attorney says they have more than enough for multiple felony charges. They're facing conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, fraud, and possibly charges related to Michelle's death. The DA mentioned possible federal charges too, because of the interstate nature of their crimes. My aunt has been amazing through all this. She's helped me sort through the legal maze and even hired security when we learned about some of Robert's shady connections. I've had to change all my accounts, move my assets, and basically reconstruct my entire life from scratch. The hardest part has been dealing with mutual friends and extended family. Some people still can't believe Diana would do this. They keep suggesting there must be some misunderstanding, that maybe Robert manipulated her. The evidence says otherwise. Diana was, if anything, the more enthusiastic planner of my murder. I've been going through Robert's financial records with forensic accountants. We found evidence that he and Diana had been siphoning money from my accounts and investments for months. They had a whole separate life set up, a house in Belize, fake passports, offshore accounts. They were just waiting to kill me to get the insurance money before disappearing. More details keep coming out, and each one is worse than the last. I'll update again when I can, but right now I need to focus on the upcoming criminal proceedings. The preliminary hearing is next month, and I have to testify. Update 2: things have gotten even more complicated since my last update. Robert and Diana's case has taken some unexpected turns, and more disturbing information keeps coming to light. The biggest development is that they've started turning on each other in custody. Diana's lawyer reached out to the DA offering information about other crimes Robert committed, hoping for a deal. Robert responded by having his lawyer send a 30-page document detailing every crime Diana had ever been involved in, including some I'd never heard about. Through their mutual betrayal, I learned that Diana had been slowly poisoning her ex-husband Thomas, 34M, before he got custody of their son Eric, 4M, and moved away 3 years ago. Thomas has now come forward to help the prosecution. He had suspected something was wrong when he kept getting mysteriously ill, but doctors could never find the cause. He got better immediately after moving away with Eric. The police found a storage unit rented under one of Robert's aliases. Inside was like something from a horror movie, detailed journals of their plans to kill me, research on poisons, and what the police are calling trophies from their previous victims. They found Michelle's jewelry, Lucy's diary, and disturbingly, photos of me sleeping in my own bed that I never knew were taken. The journals revealed that their original plan wasn't even to marry me. They had planned to kill me right after our parents died to get my inheritance. But when Robert realized how much more they could get through life insurance, they changed their plan. He spent months convincing me to take out that policy, slowly increasing the coverage amount over time. Diana's journals were the most painful to read excerpts from. She wrote about how much she hated me since we were teenagers, how she resented that our parents preferred me, and how she enjoyed watching me trust her while she plotted my death. She even wrote about putting small amounts of poison in my coffee during our weekly sister brunches, just to make me feel ill and worried about my health. More victims of their previous scams have come forward. Patricia, 35F, who dated Robert 7 years ago, nearly died in a hiking accident that's eerily similar to what they planned for me. She only survived because another hiker happened to come along at the right moment. There's also Jennifer, 31F, who was Robert's neighbor in another state. Her house mysteriously burned down after she rejected his advances, but she wasn't home at the time. The investigation into our parents' death has uncovered money trails linking Robert to the drunk driver. They found payments totaling $50,000 made to the driver's offshore account 2 days before the accident. The driver died in prison last year from what looked like a heart attack, but now they're investigating whether he was silenced. Diana's son Eric has been permanently placed with Thomas's family. The psychological evaluation they did on Diana as part of the custody hearing is frightening. The psychiatrist described her as a textbook psychopath with zero empathy and a deep capacity for manipulation. She apparently showed no emotional response when discussing her crimes, only frustration at being caught. The evidence from their storage unit led police to 3 other storage units in different states. They found more evidence of their crimes, including detailed plans for future victims. They had a list of wealthy women they planned to target after killing me. Each victim was researched in detail, with notes on their routines, relationships, and vulnerabilities. I've had to increase security after learning that Robert tried to hire someone to take care of me from inside jail. Thankfully, he approached an undercover officer, but it shows they're still trying to tie up loose ends. I'm now living in a secured building with cameras and 24-hour security. The district attorney says this case has become one of the largest investigations of its kind in the state. They're still uncovering new evidence and potential victims. Both Robert and Diana are facing multiple life sentences if convicted. The trial is set to start in 2 months, and I'll update again after it begins. Update 3: The trial ended yesterday, and I'm still processing everything that came out during the proceedings. This will be my final update on this nightmare, as I need to focus on moving forward with my life. The trial lasted 3 weeks, and every day brought new horrors. The prosecution presented over 1,000 pieces of evidence, including their journals, emails, videos, and financial records. Listening to those recordings of them planning my death while sitting in the same courtroom with them was the hardest thing I've ever done. Diana took the stand first, trying to paint herself as a victim of Robert's manipulation. She claimed he had been controlling her for years through blackmail and threats. Her performance was almost convincing until the prosecution played videos from her phone. In them, she was excitedly planning my murder, talking about how much she looked forward to watching me die. The jury's faces said everything. Robert's testimony was even worse. He showed absolutely no remorse, instead trying to justify everything as business decisions. He actually said that killing me would have been a mercy because Diana was planning to make it more painful. They spent most of the trial trying to blame each other, revealing even more crimes in the process. The forensic accountant's testimony revealed they had stolen over $400,000 from my accounts through careful manipulation of my investments. They had been moving small amounts at a time to avoid detection, using Robert's position as my financial advisor to cover their tracks. Thomas testified about his poisoning, bringing medical records showing elevated levels of arsenic in his blood from when he was married to Diana. He described how she would insist on cooking all his meals, how she isolated him from his family, and how she tried to convince everyone he was mentally unstable when he started suspecting her. The most shocking testimony came from Robert's former cellmate, who revealed that Robert and Diana had killed at least 2 other people we didn't know about. The police are now investigating the deaths of Robert's elderly aunt, who left him her estate, and Diana's former boss, who died in an apparent suicide after confronting her about missing company funds. The jury took only 4 hours to reach a verdict. Both Robert and Diana were found guilty on all counts: conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, fraud, evidence tampering, and in Robert's case, the murder of his previous girlfriend Michelle. The judge sentenced them each to multiple life sentences without the possibility of parole, to be served consecutively. During sentencing, Diana finally broke her calm facade and started screaming at me, blaming me for ruining her life and promising she'd find a way to finish what she started. She had to be physically removed from the courtroom. Robert just sat there with the same smug smile he'd had throughout the trial. I learned yesterday that Diana has been diagnosed with malignant narcissistic personality disorder with psychopathic traits. The prison psychiatrist's report described her as one of the most manipulative patients they'd ever evaluated. Robert's psychiatric evaluation revealed similar findings: a complete lack of empathy and an obsession with control and power. The DA's office is still investigating their potential connection to other unsolved murders and suspicious deaths. They've created a task force specifically for this case, as they believe Robert and Diana may have been killing people for over a decade. I'm moving across the country next week to start fresh. I've changed my name, my appearance, and deleted all my social media. The experience of having the 2 people closest to me plot my murder has left me with scars that may never fully heal, but I refuse to live in fear. I want to thank everyone who supported me through this nightmare. For anyone who finds themselves doubting their instincts about someone close to them, trust your gut. The monsters in our lives don't always look like monsters. Sometimes they look like your loving husband and caring sister.